Hey, what's going on YouTube? Let's talk about extract method, a simple technique for less complexity, more readability, more clarity, and overall cleaner code. Let's get into it. The main idea behind extract method is moving a fragment of code from an existing method into a new method with a name that clearly defines what it's doing. So what is a code fragment? You can think about code fragments as consecutive lines of code that belong together semantically. These are usually pieces of code that have some sort of relationship or dependency. What are some of the benefits of using extract method? I'll list off 5 of them here. Reduces redundancy, reduces complexity, reduces or removes the need for comments, makes your code more readable, and adds clarity and intention to your code. Now there are a few steps to follow when using the extract method. I'll run through some of the steps here, then we can jump into the code to see it in action. Step number 1, identify the code fragment to extract. We can do this by looking for lines that belong together, identify what you can extract, and identifying what should stay in the original method. Step number 2, create an empty method and copy over the code. You can do this by highlighting the code fragment and then simply pasting it into the newly created method. Step number 3, identify any variables that need to be passed in as arguments. These are usually variables that haven't been declared within the context of your new method. The best case scenario is that there are no variables that need to be passed in. Step number 4, identify what variables are still used by the old method. You can do this by commenting out the extracted lines and see if any errors occur. If there are, you can have your new method return a value to satisfy the existing requirements. And the last step, call your newly created method from the original method and then test out your newly refactored method. So now let's jump into the code and start refactoring. So the first thing I want to do here is identify the code fragment of fragments that I want to extract. So looking at this function here, I see 5 different places we can refactor. Fragment number 1 for account balance, branch details. Number 2 for current balance. Number 3 for transaction count. Number 4 for transaction fee. And then lastly, number 5 to see whether or not the user exceeded their maximum amount of transactions. For the sake of brevity, I've gone ahead and created our empty methods. Now it's a matter of populating our newly created methods here. We're going to start off with print account summary and then just go down in linear order. So print account summary is simply just a copy and paste, a little bit of formatting there. And then I'm going to reference the newly created method from our existing method up here. Next, we're going to do current balance. And notice current balance is needed for this console log statement. So we're going to need to return a value in our new method. Also, I'm going to change these to const here as well, just so if any more code is added, we'll know that these values shouldn't be changed. And then it's a matter of just referencing the method up here from our existing method. I'm going to be doing the same thing here with transaction count as well because it's needed for the console log statement here. All right, we're returning a value and then just referencing transaction count up here. All right, so next is transaction fee. And notice that transaction fee requires transaction count. And transaction count is calculated in calculate transaction count method up here. So we can simply just call it there. And we want to return a value because the console log statements up here is going to require that value. And just a matter of calling that method like we did for the other two. Now we're going to do the same thing here for exceed your maxed. And that also requires transaction count. And so it's going to be a matter of just referencing the method that calculates the transaction count. And we're not returning a value here just because we're simply logging out whether or not the user exceeded their max. And then we can call the method up here. Just going to do a little bit of cleanup here. Remove the comments because those are no longer needed. We have methods that clearly define what they're doing. And perfect. That's that. So refactoring is now completed. We can see that our print account summary method is substantially shorter. We've reduced redundancy because we moved out a lot of the logic into their own individual method. So if we need to say calculate account balance or calculate transaction count, it's just a matter of calling these methods. This logic no longer needs to be duplicated. Also, there's increased clarity because the method is substantially shorter. So you can look at this method and see from a glance what it's doing. So clarity, readability, reduce redundancy, reduce complexity. There's no more need for comments because we have methods with names that clearly define their intentions. Overall, cleaner code. So that's going to wrap up our video on the extract method technique today. You can start using this technique right away for cleaner code. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think about it. Remember to like and subscribe. Until next time, peace. I'll see you guys in the next video.